The unsurpassed, penetrating and perfect truth is seldom met with, even in 100,000 myriad kalpas. Now we can see and hear it, we can remember and accept it. I vow to make the Buddha's truth one with myself. Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha. Well, as we who are here know, we've just had the festival of the Buddha's Parinirvana, his death of the body. I looked up Parinirvana. I don't think I can, it means complete liberation at death for a person who has realized enlightenment. They've realized nirvana. Parinirvana is the complete going on, Nothing left to be reborn, unlike most of us, no karma remaining. Reverend Master Jiyu used the term eternal meditation for parinirvana. Well, we all know what we've been doing, but anyone listening to this talk later, to let them know, during the ceremony we turned out all the lights and candles while we chanted the scripture of great wisdom several times. But we left one little candle burning in the founder's shrine. And in the semi-darkness, the chaplains gathered up all the wishes for everybody for the light of Buddha to return to the world. We offer incense, and then the incense is brought back and forth, gathering up people's wishes. May the light of Buddha return to the world. But in fact, it hadn't completely gone because there was that little candle burning in the founder's shrine. And we continued to chant the scripture of great wisdom, the most sort of fundamental scripture of our tradition, until we lit the taper from that little candle, and we went around and lit all the other candles and turned on all the lights again. And then we went on with the ceremony. Well, this is really simple and beautiful, and it makes something really clear. The light of Buddha seems to be gone, but it's still burning, and it comes back to the world. And it's up to us to bring it back to the world by doing our training faithfully in the dark. And then the light brightens, and it can help us and all beings by doing our training, doing that faithful continuing in the dark, no matter what is happening in our life, just keeping on going in the dark, keeping to the scriptures, having faith that the light of Buddha will return, and it always does. The light helps us, not just us, but all beings when it comes back. No matter what it looks like, the Buddha nature is always here. It's always with us because we're part of it. We can't be separate. And the Dharma, the teaching of the Buddha, is our way of understanding it. So we keep chanting the Dharma, the scripture of great wisdom, because it's our way of understanding the light of Buddha, understanding Buddha nature for ourselves, realizing it for ourselves, so that we will treasure it and nourish it and keep it alive in darkness and in light. A very simple thing, actually. The Buddha's parinirvana. The Buddha died physically because he was a human being, and all human beings die. Everything changes, everything passes away. Nothing lasts forever. And his last words, in fact, state this: "Indeed, monks, I declare this to you. It is in the nature of all formations to dissolve. Attain perfection through diligence. Keep going, do your training. We will all dissolve." It's very clear, straightforward. And yet, there is that which does not die. Dissolve doesn't mean completely dead and vanished forever. When things dissolve, they return to a previous state or go to a different state, and they become other things. In the offertory we sang today, the Reverend Anda sang so very beautifully. It says, "The Dharma body of the Buddha is beyond birth and death, filling all things." It's beyond birth and death. The Dharma body of the Buddha is not just his physical body, there's a Dharma body of the Buddha, the Dharmakaya. And there are other references in the ceremony to the unreality of this physical birth and death. Yes, we're born and we die, and yet there's something that does not just disappear. There's the light of Buddha that continues, that we embody and manifest in our life. We chant the scriptures, we relight all the candles, We help the Dharma to continue to shine in the world by cultivating faith in the darkness, cultivating faith in doing our own training, just doing our best in darkness and in light, no matter what. When things go well, when things don't go well, when we're healthy, when we're sick, through life, through death. In all circumstances, we keep on doing our training, no matter what. And as little human beings, we come and go, we live and we die, as we know. Recently, we've seen a number of people we know die or become ill. Family members, friends, monks, lay trainees. Old people die and young people also die. We see it all the time. Everybody is touched by death. Death of the body, but it's not the whole story. Impermanence, we see it, we talk about it a lot, because it's a major feature of the Buddha's teaching. Everything changes all the time. Even things that seem solid and static, like mountains and rocks and things, they're constantly changing. Molecules rush about quickly or go a little more slowly, but everything is moving. Nothing is remaining the same. Everything is dynamic, continual flow. And everything is made up of the same basic stuff, the same ingredients put together in different ways. Rocks, flowers, animals, cars, refrigerators, chairs, stars, planets, humans. We're all basically the same stuff. I think that's great. It's amazing to contemplate that, actually, that we're basically just the same stuff as everything else. There's stars out there we can't mostly see, billions of them. We're made of the same stuff as them. You know? We're just a part of everything, nothing separate for even a moment. We don't have some special ingredient that's separate, physically anyway. None of us is separate, and none of us is fundamentally better or worse than any other, because they're all made of the same stuff. Our analogy of the waves and the sea, which I find so helpful, we're just like a wave that arises, abides for a while, and then dissolves back into the ocean. We're an inseparable part of that ocean, an inseparable part of that moving, dynamic flow of life. As the Buddha said, all formations dissolve. We arise, abide, and then dissolve back. Well, we don't really know what happens when we die, but it would appear that the death of the body is not the end of the story. And it would seem that we don't need to be afraid. As somebody I love to quote once said, dying is completely safe. How do we know? Well, how could it not be? How could it not be completely safe to die, as millions and billions of beings have done before us and will continue after? How could we be apart from Buddha nature, which does not die? That which does not die. We're never separate from that in life and in death. Parinirvana, liberation without remainder, without anything remaining to be reborn. Reverend Master Jiyu said that our pure nature returns to itself, returns to Buddha nature, and that which we have not purified, our karma, gets reborn in some form. But when somebody is completely liberated, I assume they just go back to being part of Buddha nature. Sometimes people see, somebody who's long died. I don't know how that works, but I'm not going to say it doesn't happen, It happens a lot. People see those who've died, they see, Kanzeon, they see all kinds of things and beings that we don't see or may not see. And we don't want to say, well, I can't see it, so it doesn't exist. All kinds of things can happen. Our pure nature, returning to the ocean, it was never separate anyway. It just seems to be that way. We just appear to be separate, or we feel that we're separate. But we don't have to be afraid, because we're not separate for a moment, whether we're living or we've died, I'm sure. Great Master Dogen said, impermanence is Buddha nature. The flow of life and death, coming and going, arising, abiding, and passing away. It is the manifestation of Buddha nature. It's Buddha nature at work. We are Buddha nature at work, in the middle of that cycle somewhere. We're part of it in life and in death, never separate for a moment. And the more we can remember this and live by it, the more we can let go and the less we create suffering for ourselves and other beings. Accepting impermanence, to really accept it, to entrust ourselves completely to Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, to the great matter, and live and die in faith. And even if the Dharma were to die out completely from this world, if Buddhism no longer existed, if our world even no longer existed, well, Buddha nature would still continue. It's much bigger than our little planet, because it embraces everything, no matter what. Nothing left out. Nothing too big, nothing too small. We might call it Buddha nature, but there are other ways, other things to call it. It's bigger than Buddhism. The truth goes beyond all our forms and concepts and ideas, beyond anything we can create or imagine. But the forms and concepts can help us. They're not the truth itself, but they help us to find it. So we don't throw them away, but we can see that there is something beyond all our forms, thoughts, ideas. So our Parinirvana ceremony is really just a skillful means to remind us to keep on going in faith, in light and dark. If that little candle were to go out, suddenly get blown out by a gust of wind in the middle of the ceremony, it wouldn't be the end of the world. It doesn't mean the ceremony doesn't work. It wouldn't be a problem, because it's just a symbolic thing to remind us. It's not magic. Ceremonies are not magic, nor are they meaningless. They're a way of opening the heart, of turning towards that which is greater than we are, that which does not die. There's something much bigger than our little concerns. They remind us of what really matters, beyond all our little selfish ideas and thoughts and distractions and worries and all that. Ceremonies remind us to let go, to open up, to express gratitude, to entrust ourselves completely to the great matter, that which does not die, and live in faith. That's what they're for. They're not popular in the West at the moment. People think ceremonies are just Asian or cultural baggage. Rubbish. They're wonderful, they help us. Don't throw them away. We all have the light of Buddha within us. We all are part of Buddha nature, no matter who or what we are. No matter what we do, we can cover it up with greed and hatred and all that. Or we can train ourselves in compassion and wisdom, and let that light shine for the benefit of ourselves and for our world. That's what this ceremony reminds us of, just to remind us, keep on going, keep doing the practice when things are really hard, when they're not so hard, when they're easy, when we're sick, when we're well, when we're alive, when we're dying, to keep on doing our practice, to let that light shine as best we can, because our world needs it, and so do we. And that's our little talk for the day. Thank you. Thank you for being here today.